Well, I've just managed to climb aboard this taxi and we're heading off to the famous brewing town of Burton-on-Trent. And here's a few clues as to what I'm going to be seeing. OK, a quarter of all British people take this on holiday with them. Travel writer and author Bill Bryson once described it as having the visual properties of industrial lubricant. And it was a sort of standard part of the ration packs for soldiers during the First World War. Well, have you guessed what it is yet? Yeah, of course you have. It's Marmite. Marmite, that tangy, savoury spread. You either love it or you hate it. That famous black jar with a yellow lid, it's so quintessentially British. Marmite was first developed and produced here in Burton in 1902. But its connection with the town is more than just coincidence. Well, the first person I'm here to see today is Head of Production, Mark Waring. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Paul.
Nice to meet you. Well, it's all going on in there. I want to know, what are the ingredients to Marmite, or is it secret? Well,
there are some secrets. Obviously, the main ingredient is brewer's yeast. So we collect brewer's yeast from all over the UK, and that is really the main ingredient that goes into making Marmite. But there are some special little bits of tweaking that we do with the product at the end of the process. I'm afraid that is top secret, and you'll never know that secret.
Well, that's obviously hence the connection to Burton and the brewing industry.
It is, yes.
Yeah. Is this the only Marmite factory in the world?
It's not, no. There are two. There is a factory in South Africa and this one in the UK. So we're supplying everywhere in the world except for South Africa Marmite.
Yeah. Just standing here talking to you for a couple of minutes is making me feel rather hungry because the smell in there is absolutely delicious.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's a pallet ready to be loaded up onto a lorry. Where's this one going? My word, it's going all the way to Canada. Well, good luck, Marmite. The factory here produces 4,000 tonnes of the stuff each year. That's enough to fill 25 million little jars. And it's the black glass with the yellow lid, and I've got one here, that makes this product so iconic. But how did it come to be this way? I was keen to learn more about Marmite's history and how the brand has evolved and changed through the decades. I was meeting up with packaging and brand expert Robert Opie. Robert, thank you so much for bringing in well, it's a very small part of your collection. I know you've outgrown the house now, haven't you?
Yeah, very much so. And now there is actually a museum in Notting Hill in London where you can come and see a lot of this.
Full of thousands of products.
Thousands of products.
Well, what I want to know today is just talk me through a little bit of the potted history of Marmite.
Right. Well, in fact, the story goes a bit further than 1902 when Marmite arrived. You can go back to Justin von Liebig, a great German scientist who discovered you could extract meat from a cow and put it into a jar. Right. And he produced Liebig's extract of meat, which was on sale in this country in the 1860s. And at the same time, he was also working out, how can I make brewer's yeast into something which was nourishing? And he did actually find a solution to that.
Yeah. So where does the name come from?
Well, Marmite is actually French, marmite, and it's French for a stew pot or stock pot. And there it is on the front of the label. It is essentially the trademark. And there it has stood the test of it all the way through this wonderful history. There it has remained. And you see the early pots, these straight-sided pots. Now, I don't actually have one of the first pots in my collection. I'm still looking. Somebody please will send me one. But in fact, you can see what it should look like from the advertisements. Right. Thankfully, the advertisements give you the clue. And that's how it was right up until 1925, when suddenly they decided, OK, we're going to do something a bit more special. Right. Now, this new wondrous pot arrived in its own box. And, of course, then the box became a firm favourite. It gave you something really exciting inside it.
Where do you find all this?
Do you know, you have to keep on looking. They turn up in people's homes, they turn up in shops, all kinds of different places.
I've heard of OXO cubes, I've seen them, I've used them, but I never knew they were Marmite cubes.
No, well, OXO cubes arrived in 1910, and towards the end of the 30s, the Marmite cube arrived. And you do find these wonderful tins, elegant, aren't they? Mm. The trick, though, is to find the contents as well. And actually in this one, you still have the original cubes in there.
How long was that in production for then?
Not that long, because, of course, the war arrived in 1939, and that did it district. altogether.
We've had the same shaped bottle since the 1920s. Has it always been the same ever since?
Well, pretty well, yes, but there was a moment in the mid-70s, between 74 and 76, when there was a big bottle shortage, and the manufacturers couldn't get the right shape.
Yeah.
So they had to go into something a bit more standard, shall we say, and ended up, of course, with just the straight-sided ones.
Well, it really has stood the test of time. Have there been any recent changes at all?
Well, I suppose the one that really upset the Marmite lovers was when the traditional tin lid went into plastic. And that was... It was funny because we get so familiar with these things.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel right to have a plastic lid. And I discovered people scooping out from the old jars into the traditional ones. So that was a traumatic moment.
And recently they've brought out some sort of new flavours like Guinness have done, really.
Yes, well, that was fun, wasn't it? I mean, there's nothing like that, you know, experimenting, and particularly if you connect two great brands together.
Yeah.
What fun. And of course, now, of course, you've got the convenience of squeezing it onto your toast or onto your sandwich.
It's not the same, is it?
Well,
it's not the same.
I think the next generation will get used to that, and I think we're now in the squeezy generation, aren't we?
Well, you are a brand expert. Does Marmite really stand out as one of the most iconic?
Undoubtedly, it is one of the classic brands. It's got one of the classic designs that stood the test of time. It's up there with the leaders.